Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time stopping by, my name is Light and I am a DevSecOps engineer. So last time on Dragon Ball Z, last time we talked about how I got into the DevSecOps role, and I kind of alluded to the difference between security analyst and security engineer. And I actually had somebody hit me up on Instagram and want to know the difference. So decided to make a video off of it. But before I get to that, today is actually one of my streaming days. I stream on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday, at least 2 hours. So I'll be streaming today at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I also stream at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So just throwing it out there. You can check me out on twitch.tv /blackhacker, and you'll see me. I also left a link in the description, so check me out. Anyway, difference between security analyst and security engineer. I've actually done both roles. Actually, I was a security analyst, and I moved into application security engineer. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the difference, mainly between analyst and engineering roles, because I think they get a lot of confusion around them, and I'm just going to provide some clarity. So from an analyst perspective, I would say, just from my experience personally, analysts seem more like they were on the proactive side, where engineers were more on the reactive side or defense side. So analysts can be seen more as attackers, if you will. They take the proactive steps to just kind of scan the surroundings or the environment, get an understanding of the findings or vulnerabilities. I say vulnerabilities because nothing's a vulnerability unless you actually exploit it, in my book. Or if it has a known exploit, that's when it's a vulnerability. Outside of that, it's just a finding. But I could go over that too. But anyway, analysts tend to run scans. They tend to let people know, prioritize, and let business units know what exactly is out there as far as findings wise, whether it's a high, a critical, medium. They create reports, generate reports that can get sent up to higher up, such as managers or the execs and stuff like that. They have a capability to even sometimes some analysts are able to take a step further and maybe even get a little hands-on. I haven't necessarily had that role where I was an analyst getting really hands-on. I might do some triaging or minor validation, but not a lot. So yeah, that's pretty much as far as analyst goes. They also look at ways to try to optimize as well, like optimize the environment such that you can prevent said threats. So that's pretty much all I got from the analyst position, analyst role. I talked more to managers. I talked more to people who actually weren't, like I said, down in the weeds or in the technical aspect, so much tech. They didn't have a lot of tech talk. So yeah, you have a different audience when you're an analyst versus somebody who's like an engineer. So that being said, I'm going to segue into security engineer. And the security engineer role, pretty much, like I said, it's more reactive. So it's more looking at the defense side, if you will. So they stand up secure systems. They get more hands-on. They actually make changes based on those threats that an analyst may have found. They also tend to, in my experience, I had to be way more technical because I was speaking more to, people who were hands-on on these systems. I had to work alongside them in a lot of cases too. Like in the application security the AppSec engineer role, I actually had to compromise the application, create a write-up of how I compromised it, and then provide that write up to the developers. And then if they had any questions, I would have a conversation with them, and get them a little bit more, give them a better understanding, and give them more clarity as to what actually happened, and what they can do to prevent that. Versus an analyst would probably, let's say, just run a scan. I'll just throw out a scanning tool. So I'd probably run something like Tenable, Nessus, or Qualys. And I would read through that scan report, prioritize what needs to be looked at. Not necessarily going in depth with it, but just kind of prioritize and provide a report to then give to either the business unit or whoever the company necessarily wants me to give it to at that time. So it seems kind of similar, but like I said, the engineer role goes way more in depth, actually hands-on stuff. Even in my current role, I talked about, like, I had to be well versed on how the internet works. I had to know, programming languages. Like I had to know way more than, let's say, I did when I was an analyst. So that's pretty much it. A couple of other things that you kind of get a difference between analyst and engineer. I've got a higher salary as an engineer rather than an analyst. Analysts can be a little ambiguous depending on the company, because the company could be like a catch-all, if you will. Like, you could say anything cybersecurity is just an analyst. You could say SOC analyst. You could say security analyst. You could just say cybersecurity analyst, or specialist. Specialist also has been very ambiguous. But yeah, so those tend to not, those roles, regardless of from what I've had, didn't seem to be as hands-on. Not to say that you can't get a lot done being a security analyst. It's just definitely different in what you do. There's an education difference too between an analyst versus an engineer. So, and this may be my opinion, but outside of there really being a educational difference, but I feel like you can kind of get away with having certifications as an analyst, rather than probably having at least way more experience and way more knowledge, or at least a degree, being an engineer. That's just kind of like my bonus. And the reason why I say that is because security analyst, like I said, it's proactive. It can range between way beginner to like really expert, but either way, like, your knowledge is kind of the same. In my field, in my experience, the knowledge was kind of the same. It's just, somebody had a question that was way out there. My experience at the time may have not been able to answer the question. Whereas somebody who's been in the analyst role longer, they've seen it, the same threats constantly. They've been asked the same question because they run the same reports. They were able to, answer the question better than I was, who was probably, a newbie at the time. Also, I feel like the certifications out there, they really gear towards analysts, like Security Plus. I've never really had the Security Plus certification, but I've taken, I've kind of read through it just because, personally, I never, prior to the certification that I have now, which I have the GWAP, or the SANS GWAP, prior to that, I didn't really care to have a certification, but I did read through some of the texts and everything, and that was kind of the stuff that I already knew. Well, not kind of, it was 100% the stuff I already knew. And I wish I probably would have had it in the beginning of my career, just to, flaunt it, outside of the degree. But yeah, I think a lot of, especially like Pentest Plus or Security Plus, CompTIA, they tend to play towards that analyst role. There are other certifications that kind of play towards the engineer role, and that will most likely be my next video talking about certifications. But yeah, so an analyst, you can kind of get away with the certification, but engineer, because you need way more in-depth knowledge, you will most likely need an extensive amount of time in the field, or or have a degree or a series of certifications on top of experience to get the engineer role. So I hope that helps anybody who is kind of teeter-tottering. Should I be a security analyst? Should I be an engineer, security engineer? What's the difference between the two? I hope that answered your question. If you have any other questions, just drop them in the comments below. I'll get to them and I'll answer them. If you haven't subscribed, I'm dropping videos, man, on things that I think a lot of people have questions on. So you might want to catch some of these answers and hit the notification bell just to, be alerted of when I probably answer a question that you probably have. So without further ado, I guess I'll head off. See you guys next time.